As US-China tensions escalate, the Philippines finds itself on a knife's edge. In mid-2025, Chinese warships prowled contested waters, issuing stern warnings to Manila over its joint patrols with foreign allies. In response, Philippine and US forces launched their seventh major maritime drill in the South China Sea, underscoring a brewing standoff that could explode into open conflict. If war erupts in the Pacific, the archipelago won't just be a bystander, it could become ground zero. From vital airfields to strategic islands and ports, these 10 provinces stand in the path of war. Each one is a potential flashpoint where civilians, infrastructure, and ecosystems would be among the first to suffer. These are the places most likely to bleed first and hardest. Number 10. Palawan. Palawan stands on the front line of the South China Sea dispute. This long, narrow island faces directly toward the contested Spratly Islands and the broader West Philippine Sea. It's home to the Antonio Bautista Air Base in Puerto Princesa, one of the key EDCA sites, and the closest Philippine base to China's military outposts in the Spratlys. The United States has invested heavily in this location, with millions spent on upgrades including fuel storage, ammunition warehouses, and command centers. In a wartime scenario, any tactical operations launched from Palawan, such as aircraft deployments, radar systems, or missile batteries, could make it a high-value target for Chinese strikes. But Palawan's vulnerability isn't just military. Its rich environment and local economy are also at stake. Known for its world-class beaches, coral reefs, and marine biodiversity, Palawan is a pillar of Philippine tourism and fisheries. Military expansion has already begun in nearby Balabac Island, just 140 nautical miles from China's Mischief Reef. While this is seen as a defensive move, it could also draw conflict closer. Bombardments or naval blockades could cripple local industries and destroy fragile ecosystems. Communities around Puerto Princesa and El Nido, whose livelihoods rely on peace, may be forced to flee. In a Pacific war, Palawan's strategic location could turn it from paradise into a battleground. Number 9. Zambales. Zambales, located on Luzon's western coast, holds a pivotal place in any future Pacific conflict. It's home to Subic Bay, a deep-water port with a powerful legacy. Once a major U.S. naval base, Subic now serves both Philippine naval forces and commercial shipping. In 2025, Philippine lawmakers debated the creation of a joint US-Philippine ammunition hub there, a move that triggered concern from Beijing. Subic's port, airfield, and surrounding infrastructure remain critical for naval resupply and logistics. In a conflict, those very assets, piers, warehouses, fuel depots, could become high priority targets, placing the densely populated town of Olongapo in direct danger. Just off the bay lies Grande Island, a strategic outpost overlooking the West Philippine Sea and Scarborough Shoal. This gives Filipino forces a clear line of sight toward Chinese military positions in the Spratly Islands. But that visibility comes with a cost. Grande Island and nearby Chiquita Island have been eyed for naval base conversion, raising fears of Chinese retaliation. Already, Subic has hosted joint PH-US military drills, including a large maritime strike exercise in April 2025 involving missile-capable U.S. Marines. For locals, from tourism operators to shipyard workers, the threat isn't hypothetical. Zambales is preparing for war, and if it comes, this province will be among the first to feel the impact. Number 8. Cagayan. At the northernmost edge of Luzon, Cagayan province faces the open Pacific in the Luzon Strait, the Philippines' closest point to Taiwan. Its position makes it a strategic gateway and a potential frontline in any Taiwan-related conflict. In fact, President Marcos has publicly acknowledged that northern Luzon, including Cagayan and neighboring Isabela, falls squarely within China's sphere of interest due to rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait. To strengthen defense in this sensitive region, new EDCA sites have been established in Cagayan. In 2023, the Philippines and the United States designated Camilo Asias Naval Base in Santa Ana and Lolo Air Base as military cooperation hubs. These locations now support rotational U.S. forces, surveillance, operations, and ammunition storage. But Cagayan's vulnerability runs deeper than geography. It's a rugged region with limited infrastructure. The nearby Bosco Airport in Baitens is often grounded by storms, and even Lalo's airfield is only partially modernized. In a war, long-range bombers and missiles headed for Taiwan or Luzon would likely pass over or through Cagayan airspace, exposing its rural towns, farms, and fishing villages to direct danger. In mid-2025, U.S. Apache helicopters trained here during joint Balikatan drills, signaling the province's growing military role. For local communities, that means more than just military presence, it means they may become early casualties if war breaks out. Cagayan's position near Taiwan and its expanding base network put it squarely in the crosshairs of any future Pacific conflict. Number 7. Baitens. Baitens is the Philippines' smallest and northernmost province, so close to Taiwan that on a clear day, locals say you can see its southern tip. That proximity brings a constant sense of unease. Because of how close we are to Taiwan, Baitens is likely to be affected, says one local teacher. With just one small airport in Bosco, no deepwater port, and little natural protection, the islands are dangerously exposed. Any military ships or aircraft bound for Taiwan would pass just north of Baitens, and in a Taiwan Strait conflict, these peaceful islands could be showered with debris or even missile strikes. In recent years, Baitens has become a growing focus for military preparedness. In 2024, the Philippine military deployed more troops to the area and began planning new defense facilities. Baitens was described as the spearhead of the Philippines' northern baseline. Joint U.S. Philippine exercises, like those in the Bashi Channel, have even explored building a small port to support patrols in the area. These efforts aim to deter aggression, but they also make the province a more obvious target. If Chinese or Taiwanese warships cross the channel, the chances of a deadly exchange, even by accident, dramatically increase. For Baitens communities, the risks are real. Any conflict could devastate villages in Bosco, Itbayat, and Sabtang. Typhoon shelters, coral reefs, and coastal farmland would be the first casualties. Baitens is breathtaking in its beauty and serenity, but in a war, that very isolation could turn it into a battlefield. Number 6. Ilocos Norte. Ilocos Norte, on the northwestern edge of Luzon, sits just south of Cagayan and west of Baitens, and it has quietly become one of the most militarized parts of the Philippines. In 2024, the U.S. deployed a Typhoon missile battery to Laoag Airport. These mobile systems can launch Tomahawk cruise missiles and SM-6 interceptors, capable of striking targets far beyond Philippine waters, including enemy warships in the Taiwan Strait. This deployment marked a turning point. Ilocos Norte is now part of the frontline. In 2025, Chinese carrier groups sailed just outside Philippine waters near Ilocos. In response, Manila ramped up joint exercises with the U.S., from Subic Bay all the way up to Ilocos coastlines. The province's key infrastructure includes Laoag City and its airport, as well as the runway at Burgos. But it's also home to rich farmland, fishing grounds, and beach resorts around Pagapud. In war, those assets become liabilities. Missile fields or radar stations here would likely draw counterstrikes. Roads linking Ilocos to central Luzon, especially the highways toward Metro Manila, could be bombed to isolate the north. The province's wind farms, military radars, and civilian airports could all be knocked out in early strikes. If Chinese submarines or aircraft moved southward, Ilocos Norte could face combat before Metro Manila even gets hit. In 2025, U.S. Philippine War Games explicitly covered this territory, stretching from Subic up through northern Luzon. The message is clear: Ilocos Norte, once a quiet coastal province, now plays a central role in regional defense and is firmly within range if war breaks out. Number 5. Pampanga. Pampanga is home to Clark Air Base, the Philippines' largest U.S.-capable airfield. With a 3-kilometer runway and massive apron space, Clark is the main hub for both American and Filipino combat jets. In April 2025, over 13,000 U.S. Marines and airmen gathered Here for the Baitens exercises, training in high-intensity strikes using F-18s and F-16s. Their target, simulate the sinking of enemy warships. Clark's importance is undeniable. And so is its vulnerability. Hangars, fuel depots, control towers, all of them are top priority targets in any Pacific conflict. If war breaks out, Clark would be one of the first sites an adversary tries to neutralize. Number 4. Tarlac. Tarlac province sits just north of Pampanga, a quiet crossroads with a critical role. It lies directly along the route between northern Luzon and Manila, flanking the air corridors of Clark Air Base and the central plains of Luzon. Tarlac houses Camp Servilano Aquino in Tarlac City, a major Philippine Army base along with vast training zones used to reinforce central Luzon's defenses. It also borders Fort Magsaysay in Nueva Ecija, an EDCA site home to the 7th Infantry Division. Together, these facilities support military logistics across Luzon's heartland. But while Tarlac has no flashy foreign bases or missile systems, it still sits squarely in harm's way. If Clark or Subic Bay were attacked, missiles and bombers would cross directly over Tarlac's skies. Its quiet forests and Mount Pinatubo slopes could absorb fallout or debris. During past Baitens exercises, Tarlac was often a staging ground. Its open terrain and highways hosted drills, and in war, those same roads would be strategic. The Tarlac-Pangasinan La Union Expressway is the main artery connecting Manila to northern Luzon. Cutting it would isolate defenses to the north. In the event of sustained conflict, thousands of civilians might be forced to flee south to Pampanga or west to Pangasinan. And while the province lacks high-value targets, its rice fields, reservoirs, and farmland could be destroyed or seized for military use. Tarlac doesn't make headlines, but it doesn't have to. Its geography makes it a critical buffer, a silent hinge between the front lines and the capital. And in a war scenario, what happens in Tarlac could decide how quickly Manila is reached or defended. Number 3. Cebu. Cebu, the beating heart of the Visayas. A province of shipping lanes, airports, tourism, and electronics. But now, it's also a launchpad for missiles. In April 2024, the U.S. deployed its Typhoon missile system to Mactan Cebu Airport, just outside Cebu City. Tomahawks and SM-6 interceptors now sit within range of Chinese fleets entering the Luzon Strait. The message was clear: Cebu was no longer just a commercial hub, it's part of the front line. President Marcos defended the move. Beijing condemned it. And the risk to millions of civilians quietly grew. Cebu's urban density and port infrastructure make it a tempting target. Its international airport, seaports, and high-tech industrial zones all vulnerable to a first strike. A warhead here wouldn't just destroy equipment. It would halt trade across the central Philippines. Just a few kilometers away, the Benito Ebuan Air Base is undergoing a major upgrade under EDCA. New runways, fuel depots, and barracks are turning it into a key U.S. Philippine air hub for fighters, surveillance, and relief missions. But that upgrade makes it a magnet for missiles. Already, Chinese pressure has surfaced. Cyber attacks have hit local systems. Ships have been shadowed in the Sibuyan and Sulu Seas. And in a shooting war, Cebu's fishing grounds, coral reefs, and beach resorts from Bantayan to Malapascua could be mined or bombed. Cebu is resilient. It always has been. But in a war over Taiwan or the South China Sea, the island's strategic geography would draw it straight into the crosshairs. What was once a bridge between islands might become a battlefield between superpowers. Number 2. Davao Oriental. Davao Oriental, vast, forested, and remote. It faces east, directly into the Pacific. And in a major war, that makes it a gateway or a breach. Stretching from Mati to Lupon, this quiet coastline lies far from the capital. But geography gives it new weight. Any enemy cutting U.S. Australia sea lanes could seek out this corner of Mindanao as a launch point or a landing zone. The Philippine Navy knows this. It's building up presence along the eastern seaboard. A new naval support base has been announced in nearby Misamis Oriental. Panacan Naval Station in Davao City already operates full-time. And Davao Oriental? It's next. The coast here is exposed, long beaches, scattered airstrips, and minimal military shielding. Chinese missile boats could approach from the Philippine Sea. Submarines could surface offshore. There is no robust early warning system. And if a strike came at night, much of Davao Oriental would be hit before Manila even reacted. Ports like Mati would be shelled or blockaded. Banana and coconut exports, a vital part of the local economy, would vanish. The Mount Hamiguitan Range, a UNESCO site, could burn under bombardment. Even Irrawaddy dolphins, rare and reclusive, might not survive nearby naval combat. And yet, the greatest threat may be indirect. If Mindanao's east coast becomes contested, refugees will pour inland. Trade will stop. And the island's fragile stability could collapse. Davao Oriental isn't a base. It's a buffer. But in modern warfare, buffers get hit first and hardest. Number 1. Bataan. It begins or ends in Bataan. This peninsula guards the mouth of Manila Bay, the last shield before the capital. Any invasion, blockade, or missile barrage aimed at Luzon must pass Bataan first. Last summer, Philippine and Vietnamese coast guards held historic joint drills in the bay. Not a coincidence. With Bataan on one side and Cavite on the other. This narrow gateway defines the country's survival. The first blasts would strike Marivil's port, the old USAF outpost at Morong, and the coastal artillery now stationed along the western cliffs. If enemy warships fire into Manila Bay, Bataan's beaches will be cratered before dawn. The Diosdado Macapagal Airport, part of Clark's old military air lift network, might be bombed. Not for what it is, but for what it connects, Manila. The northern supply lines. The Philippine heartland. And there's history here, heavy and unforgotten. The Bataan Death March, etched into the peninsula's soil, reminds us that Bataan has already once been ground zero for national tragedy. This time, it could be burned by missiles, not just boots. China's anti-ship weapons, launched from the south China Sea, could land across rice paddies, jungle hills, and civilian towns in minutes. And if troops ever land, it is Bataan's fields and forests that would host the fight. Even peace won't protect its environment. The Morong nuclear facility, unused but still vulnerable, sits like a relic. Wildlife sanctuaries and protected forests, dense and irreplaceable, could vanish in a moment's firestorm. And yet, this is more than geography. It's symbolism. If Bataan falls, the gates to Manila stand wide open. In war, borders are not the only things that burn. Lives do. Homes do. Futures do. Bataan bleeds. First, because it stands between the world and the capital. The Philippines is on the front line of Asia's rising tensions. These provinces, from the reefs of Palawan to the mountains of Bataan, show how a Pacific war could engulf a nation of islands. If conflict breaks out, thousands of families in these places would face disaster. We must remember, while strategic rivals plan and posture, it's Filipino lives and communities that could pay the price. Let's hope for peace. But if it fails, these provinces will be the first to suffer the cost. Do you live near any of these places? What are your thoughts on the growing tension in the Pacific? Comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more truth-based documentaries.